I used to think grief starts with a funeral. You cry, you heal, you move on. But the man I was supposed to be grieving is still sitting across, smiling, breathing, and calling my name. My husband died 5 years ago, only no one told me. For years, I lived with a man who looked exactly like my husband, sounded like him, even smelled like him. He remembered our anniversary, our secret jokes, the song we danced to at our wedding. Everything was perfect. Until one night I caught him standing in front of the mirror, whispering to himself, "I'm not him, Clara. I'm what he left behind." You might be wondering how we got to this point. James and I had been married for 12 years when he got sick. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors gave him 6 months, maybe 8 if we were lucky. We weren't lucky. One Tuesday morning in March, he slipped into a coma. The doctors told me to prepare myself. They said he wouldn't make it through the night, but the next morning he opened his eyes. He smiled at me. He called me Clary. He told me everything was going to be fine. I thought it was a miracle, a second chance. The doctors must have been wrong. For 5 years I lived with that miracle. He still woke up beside me every morning, his hand warm against my hip. He still made my coffee just the way I liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of oat milk, stirred counterclockwise, because he said it tasted better that way. He still laughed at my terrible jokes. I never questioned it. Not once. Until the day I found out James really did die in that hospital room 5 years ago. It was a Wednesday night in October when I first noticed. We were sitting on the couch, watching some crime documentary I'd already forgotten the name of. James had his arm around me, his thumb tracing lazy circles on my shoulder. It should have felt comfortable. It should have felt like home. But instead, I felt like I was being watched. I glanced at him. He was staring straight ahead at the TV, but his eyes, they weren't moving, not blinking, not tracking the action on screen, just fixed. "James?" He didn't respond. "James." His head snapped toward me too fast, like a puppet yanked by its strings. "Yeah, baby?" His smile was perfect, too perfect. "Are you okay?" "Of course." He kissed my forehead. Why wouldn't I be? I didn't have an answer, but that night I couldn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe beside me. Except, he wasn't breathing. Not the way people do when they're asleep. His chest rose and fell in perfect mechanical intervals. No sighs, no shifts in rhythm, no snoring, just in, out, like he was counting. A few days later, I came home early from work. I'd forgotten my laptop charger and doubled back to grab it. The house was quiet when I walked in, which wasn't unusual. James worked from home most days, doing freelance graphic design. But as I climbed the stairs, I heard his voice, talking. At first I thought he was on a call, but then I heard what he was saying. "I love you, Clara. I love you, Clara. I love you, Clara." Over and over, different inflections, different tones, like he was practicing. I stood outside the bedroom door, my hand on the knob, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack a rib. Slowly, I pushed the door open. James was standing in front of the full-length mirror, staring at his own reflection. "I love you, Clara." He tilted his head. "I love you, Clara." He smiled. "I love you, Clara." "James?" He spun around, his face blank for just a second, like a computer rebooting, before the warmth flooded back in. "Hey, you're home early." "What were you doing?" "What do you mean?" "You were talking to yourself." He laughed. "Easy, natural. Was I?" "I was probably just working through some copy for a client. You know how I get when I'm in the zone." He crossed the room and kissed me. His lips were warm, his hands were steady, but when I looked into his eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. That night, I couldn't let it go. After James fell asleep, or whatever it was he did that looked like sleep, I went downstairs and pulled out our old photo albums. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof, maybe, that the man upstairs was the same man I married. I flipped through the pages slowly, running my fingers over the images. Our wedding day. Our honeymoon in Greece. The summer we drove cross-country and got lost in Montana. James looked the same in every picture. Same crooked smile. Same scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. Same mole on his collarbone. Everything matched. But then I found a photo I didn't remember taking. It was from the hospital. James was in bed, pale and thin, his eyes sunken. I was sitting beside him, holding his hand, my face swollen from crying. On the back, in James's handwriting, were 4 words, "I'm sorry, my love." I stared at that photo for a long time. And then I heard footsteps behind me. "What are you doing up?" I turned. James stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light, his face half in shadow. I couldn't sleep. "Come back to bed. In a minute." He didn't move. "Clara," I said in a minute, silence. Then softly, "Please don't dig, Clara." My blood went cold. "What?" He stepped forward into the light, and for the first time I saw something break in his expression. "Please, just come to bed." The next morning, James left for a meeting. He kissed me goodbye, told me he'd be back by 3, and walked out the door like nothing had happened. But I couldn't let it go. "Please don't dig, Clara." What did that mean? I spent the morning cleaning, trying to distract myself, but my mind kept circling back to that phrase. And then I remembered. The basement. We had a storage room down there that James always kept locked. He said it was full of old work files, nothing interesting, and I'd never pushed him on it. But now... I went downstairs. The door was still locked, but I knew where James kept the spare keys, in a drawer in his office, tucked under a stack of old receipts. It took me 10 minutes to find the right one. My hands shook as I slid the key into the lock. Click. The door swung open. Inside was a small room, maybe 8 by 10 feet, and on the walls were photographs, hundreds of them. All of me sleeping, me cooking, me reading on the couch, me getting dressed. Some were close-ups, my face, my hands, my eyes. Others were candid, taken from across the room. And in the corner on a small desk was a laptop. I opened it. The screen lit up without a password. There was only one file on the desktop. It was labeled Clara, Final Instructions. I clicked it. A video started playing, and I saw my husband, the real one. James looked terrible in the video, thin, pale, his eyes hollowed out by pain, but he was smiling. "Hi, baby," his voice cracked. "If you're watching this, it means it worked, and it also means you found out." He took a shaky breath. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I know this is going to hurt. I know you're going to be angry, confused, maybe even disgusted, but I need you to understand why I did this." He leaned closer to the camera. "I was dying, Clary, and I was terrified. Not of death, I'd made peace with that, but I was terrified of what it would do to you." Tears started rolling down his face. "You told me once that if I died, you wouldn't survive it. You said you'd fall apart, that there'd be nothing left of you. And I believed you, because I know you, Clara. I know how deeply you love, how completely." He wiped his eyes. "So I made a choice, a terrible, selfish, impossible choice." He paused. I cloned myself. The words hit me like a fist to the stomach. "There's a company," he continued. "Underground, illegal. They specialize in continuity. That's what they call it. For people who can't let go. They take your DNA, your memories, your mannerisms, everything that makes you you, and they create a perfect copy." He laughed bitterly. "It cost everything we had. I emptied our savings, sold my life insurance policy, took out loans I'll never be able to repay. But I didn't care, because I couldn't leave you alone, Clara. I couldn't. I felt like I was going to be sick. The clone, his name is James, too, obviously. He's been trained, conditioned. He has all my memories up until the day before I died. He knows how you like your coffee. He knows the song we danced to at our wedding. He knows that you talk in your sleep and that you're afraid of thunderstorms." James's face crumpled. "He loves you, Clara. Maybe not the way I do, maybe not in a way that's even real, but he loves you, and he'll take care of you. He'll be there when I can't be." He reached toward the camera, like he was trying to touch me through the screen. "Please forgive me. Please. I know I had no right to do this. I know I should have let you grieve. But I was selfish, baby. I was so selfish." His hand dropped. "If you want him gone, there's a number in the desk drawer. Call it. They'll take him away, and you'll never see him again." He swallowed hard. "But if you decide to keep him, if you decide to let him stay, just know that every moment he spends with you, he's spending because I loved you too much to say goodbye." The video ended. The screen went black, and I sat there in that room full of photographs, and I screamed. He reached toward the camera like he was trying to touch me through the screen. Please forgive me, please. I know I had no right to do this. I know I should have let you grieve. But I was selfish, baby. I was so selfish. His hand dropped. If you want him gone, there's a number in the desk drawer. Call it. They'll take him away and you'll never see him again. He swallowed hard. But if you decide to keep him, if you decide to let him stay, just know that every moment he spends with you, he's spending because I loved you too much to say goodbye. The video ended. The screen went black. And I sat there, in that room full of photographs, and I screamed. James came home at 3, just like he said he would. I was waiting for him in the living room, the laptop open on the coffee table. He froze when he saw it. Clara, don't. My voice was flat, cold. He set down his bag slowly, his movements careful, like I was a wild animal he didn't want to spook. How long have you known? He asked quietly. Since this morning. He nodded. I was going to tell you. When? After another 5 years? 10? I don't know. His voice broke. I don't know, Clara. I stood up, my whole body trembling. Who are you? He flinched. I'm James. No, you're not. James is dead. James has been dead for 5 years. I have his memories. I don't care, I shouted. You're not him. You're a copy. A thing he made because he couldn't handle the thought of me moving on. Tears streamed down his face. You're right. I stopped. You're right, he said again, his voice barely a whisper. I'm not him. I know that. I've always known that. He took a step toward me. But I love you, Clara. Maybe it's not real. Maybe it's just programming, just neurons firing in a brain that was built in a lab. But it feels real. Every time I look at you, every time I hear you laugh, every time you say my name, it feels real. I shook my head, backing away. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel guilty for being angry. I'm not trying to. Then what are you trying to do? Silence. He looked at me with those eyes, James's eyes, and I hated how much I wanted to believe him. I'm trying to be enough, he said finally. I'm trying to be the man he wanted me to be. For you. I didn't sleep that night, neither did he. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the space between us feeling like miles. Can I ask you something? I said finally. Anything. Do you remember dying? He was quiet for a long time. No, he said. My last memory is, it's the day before. James, the real James, he recorded everything that day, every conversation, every thought. They used it to finish. Me. So you just woke up one day, fully formed, and knew you were supposed to be someone else? Not exactly. He rubbed his face. The first few weeks I didn't know I was a clone. They conditioned me to believe I was James, that I'd been sick, that I'd recovered. It wasn't until I found a letter he left me that I understood. A letter? He nodded. What did it say? He hesitated, then stood and walked to the bookshelf. He pulled out a worn envelope tucked behind a row of books and handed it to me. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in James's handwriting. To the man I used to be, I'm sorry for what I've done to you. I'm sorry I made you carry this burden. You didn't ask to exist, and you didn't ask to love her. But you will. God help you, you will. Take care of her, be better than I was, and if she ever finds out, let her go. James, I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. He knew this would happen, I whispered. He knew there was a chance. I looked up at him. And you stayed anyway. I couldn't leave you, Clara. Even if I'm not him, I'm all that's left of him, and I love you too much to walk away. The days that followed were unbearable. I couldn't look at him without seeing James, and I couldn't see James without remembering he was gone. The clone, I started calling him that in my head, just to create distance, tried to give me space. He slept in the guest room. He cooked meals I didn't eat. He moved through the house like a ghost, quiet and careful, always waiting for permission to exist. And I hated him for it. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he was a constant reminder of what I'd lost. One night I found him in the bathroom, staring at himself in the mirror again. What are you doing? I asked. He didn't turn around, trying to remember who I'm supposed to be. You're supposed to be James. No. He finally met my eyes in the reflection. I'm supposed to be enough, but I'm not, am I?" I didn't answer. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Resignation. "I'll leave," he said quietly. "If that's what you want, I'll call the number. They'll come get me, and you'll never have to see me again." "And then what?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Then I'm alone? Then I lose him again?" "You already lost him, Clara, 5 years ago. I'm just—" The echo. He stepped past me, heading for the bedroom to pack, and something inside me snapped. "Wait." He stopped. I don't know what I want," I admitted, tears streaming down my face. "I don't know if I can keep living like this. But I don't know if I can lose you either." He turned back to me, his own eyes wet. "Then tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix this." "You can't," I whispered. "That's the problem. You can't fix it, because the only thing that would fix it is bringing him back, the real him, and you can't do that." I know. We stood there, both of us crying, both of us broken, and for the first time I saw him not as James, but as someone who was suffering just as much as I was. I went to see James's grave the next morning. I hadn't been there since the funeral, the one I didn't know was real. The headstone was simple, just his name and dates. I sat in the grass and talked to him. "I found out," I said. "I know what you did." The wind rustled through the trees. "I'm so angry at you, James, so angry. You didn't give me a choice. You didn't let me grieve. You just left me with this thing that looks like you and sounds like you and loves me like you, and I don't know what to do with it." I traced his name with my fingers. "But I also understand why you did it. I hate that I understand. Because if it were me, if I were the one dying and you were the one left behind, I don't know if I'd be strong enough to let go either." Tears dripped onto the stone. "I miss you. I miss you so much it feels like I'm being torn apart. And the worst part is, I miss him too, the clone, because even though he's not you, he's the closest thing I have left." I stayed there until the sun started to set, and when I finally stood to leave, I felt something shift inside me. Not acceptance, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of letting go. When I got home, the house was empty. The clone had packed his things and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Clara, I called the number. They're coming to pick me up tonight. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I want you to know that every moment I spent with you was the most real thing I've ever experienced. I don't know if what I feel is love in the way James loved you, but it's the closest thing I have to it. You deserve to live without ghosts. Thank you for letting me be part of your life, even if I was never really supposed to be." Not James. I read the note 3 times. And then I ran. I don't know why. I don't know what I thought I'd accomplish. But I ran through the house, checking every room, calling his name. He was gone. I collapsed on the living room floor, clutching the note, and I sobbed until there was nothing left inside me, and then I heard the front door open. I looked up. He was standing there, a duffel bag in his hand, his eyes red and swollen. "I couldn't do it," he said hoarsely. "I got halfway down the street and I couldn't. Why?" He dropped the bag and crossed the room, kneeling in front of me. "Because leaving you hurts more than staying ever could." I stared at him. This man who wasn't my husband, this man who was created to replace him, this man who loved me in his own broken, impossible way. "I don't know if I can love you," I whispered. "Not the way I loved him. I know. I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at you without seeing what I lost. I know. But I don't want you to go." He cupped my face in his hands, his touch so gentle it broke me all over again. "Then I'll stay, for as long as you'll have me." And in that moment, I made a choice, not to move on, not to replace what I'd lost, but to hold on to the only piece of James I had left, even if it was just an echo. It's been a year since I found out the truth. Some days are harder than others. Some days I wake up and forget, just for a moment, that the man beside me isn't really mine. But most days I remember, and I choose to stay anyway. We don't talk about James anymore, the real James. It's too painful. Instead, we exist in this strange in-between space, building something new out of the ruins of what was. Is it love? I don't know. Maybe it's something else entirely, something that doesn't have a name, but it's ours. And for now, that's enough. I still visit the grave sometimes. I tell James about my life, about the man he left behind to take care of me. I tell him I'm angry. I tell him I miss him. And I tell him thank you, because even though what he did was selfish and cruel and impossible, he gave me one last gift, the chance to not be alone, even if it meant living with a ghost. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe to Stories Grandma Never Told. New stories drop every day. And remember, sometimes the people we love never really leave us. They just find new ways to stay.